Love you, Linda. Love you.
The Courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And welcome to Justice Served TV. And here we are, Linda Kenny Bodden and I am in front of the Dedham Courthouse. And look at, I just have to say, Starlink is back. That's what I got to say.
You've been working all day on that. And by the way, you're in Justice Served TV colors, not the Crips, not the Bloods. Did they kick you out of the buffer zone today, Michel Bryant?
No. There were many efforts to question my presence, but did not get kicked out today. So that's a good thing. And the works are continuing. I talked to Chief Rose. He has called the folks in Boston, and they are checking on it. They're looking into it, whatever that means.
Well, let's look into it. But at least you had some respect and dignity from somebody. Chief Rose seems like he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, he does. He's got no axe to grind. He's not one of the named defendants in our lawsuit. So they're the court personnel are very cool, and they're trying. So I appreciate that.
Oh, hello from Kansas City back. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Some of the folks I've been talking to here, in fact, you'll remember this person, Lindsay, who ran into your friend, Wiffle Ball. Remember her?
Right.
She chimed in last night.
Right.
She ran into him at
the
restaurant. Oh, the hotel, the 4 Points.
Hotel, right.
I ran into her on the street today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she said hi. We took a little photo, and then I wandered off, and I was going to get her contact info because she's from Texas. She's from Texas, and there was somebody in line as I was heading into the Aiden Carney hearing. Somebody in line from had just flown out from Chicago.
And look at this. We had somebody that just went past me from there, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Yeah. Not near Calgary, I know that, where Mr. Wiffleball was from. We've called Ian Whiffin. I have tagged him Mr. Wiffleball, just like I tagged Sofagate. And these things seem to keep sticking. And I guess that's because people feel the same way.
I think you're probably right. And right. I think apparently there is a convention of some sort in town, some scientific blah, blah, blah convention.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's, I guess somehow he coordinated that with his testimony. I'm not sure how that all played out. It might have been just dumb luck, accent on the dumb, but he's still in the area, I guess. So
yeah. Oh, by the way, Madeira Beach Caregiver is always a big supporter. I hope my microphone is better tonight, Madeira Beach. Watch your Aiden coverage a few minutes ago. Good job, Michael.
Oh, good. I'm glad that
what happened
got out
was.
There.
Yeah, the courtroom was very difficult today in terms of sound. It went down, it went up. Alan Jackson wasn't by the microphone a lot. Then I had to switch to my AirPods, and my AirPods were too. I had to switch back to the earpiece, and then the courtroom was up, and then it was down. It was a very difficult day in terms of sound control.
Yeah, I was just napping in the car when all that was going on. So sorry you had to go through that. So should I give you the Aiden Carney update? I know it was streamed, and I think maybe our buddy Will the Glairer was streaming it. But it was also going on at the exact same time as the Jennifer McCabe testimony, which we'll get into in just a few moments, because I missed the second half of that because I was literally 20 feet away in the courtroom the large courtroom that I was allowed to be in. And a lot of supporters were in there. It was by no means full, but there were plenty of folks in there. So we get in there. The case is called at 2:00. And then there's this judge. This is a judge. His name is Hallal, Hallal. I've not seen him before. Doesn't mean anything. I'm not all that up on every judge around here. But he loves the sidebars. Much more was happening at sidebar than in open court. And that included the Carney case. And so they chat. Okay, second call. Of course, that means they're going to go through a number of other cases and then circle back for a second call with that case, which they did. And then it's another sidebar. Third call, right? Third. Right. There are only about 7 or 8 other matters. Third call. Turns out, I go out in the hallway, I talk to Aiden. They're recusing the judge Hallal and waiting for Judge Doolin. Now, Judge Doolin was the one who heard the very first couple of cases against Aiden relating to the D&E pizza violation, the witness intimidation occurring at the D&E Pizza.
Doolin was our person of the week one week, if I recall, right?
No, it was the other guy.
The one the other one. Okay.
That I can't pronounce, like Stidich or something like that.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. You're right.
But this guy's obviously very familiar, and the prior judge Halal recused himself because apparently he's buddies with special prosecutor Cosgrove. Okay,
everybody, so that I don't know how they find
it's
anybody
very incestuous here. I don't know either. So they put him on third call, and I'm downstairs, and Judge Doolin wanders by me, so I know he's not up there. But eventually he gets up there, and he calls the case. Guess what happens? Sidebar. So they have a sidebar, and remember, this originally was a case that was it was really the defendant's motion for discovery, because they have not gotten any of the stuff that they've asked for from the Commonwealth. Does this sound like a theme to you?
Right. So, and this is the motion that we have dubbed Sofagate, right?
That's where we're going.
Okay.
They kind of threw that in. And in fact, the judge said, well, why is this affidavit? And this is the affidavit of the, once unknown person whose name was read in court by Cosgrove today. It's redacted, and he reads her name. Okay. Anyway, the judge says, why did you put this affidavit on there? And it's, the Commonwealth is like, look at that coincidence. Just so happens Jed McCabe is on the stand today, and here's an affidavit with her and the Sofagate thing.
Excuse me. Did they use Sofagate?
No, they did not. I threw that in. But he did say this sofa sectional dispute. And so, Dreidel gets up and he says, and Betterow is on speaker, who's not present. He's back in New York. So Breidel's there, and he says that, well, Judge, that's on there because it's the perfect example of what we're not getting in discovery from the Commonwealth. And he goes through some of the paragraphs in that declaration, which we went through ad nauseum on Sunday on our special program. And he's talking about the various events in there, the allegations in the affidavit, and saying we want all the material related to all of these things. There's clearly some contact of some sort between this person and the Commonwealth, getting paid, getting gifts, getting free couches from Jen McCabe, sofas. And so that all came up in the context of this discovery motion to get anything that the Commonwealth has yet to provide to the defense. So that was how the affidavit raised its ugly head, so to speak. But that really wasn't the bombshell, because as I learned from Aiden on these steps right behind me, at about an hour before his hearing, I said, what's going on? What's with the hearing? Well, just a status thing. We have some discovery to deal with. Okay, great. No concern. Hauntingly like it was back when he appeared in Stoughton, and he told me the same kind of thing. And then what happens? He gets banged over the head with this motion to revoke his bail. Same thing happened today. With less than 3 hours notice, they're told that, oh, by the way, we're going to try and revoke Aiden Carney's bail. All right.
And this is Cosgrove again, right?
This is Cosgrove again.
With his friend, another judge. Not Sositsky was the first judge. Micah reminded us. So Micah, you could probably host this show. You do.
I was so close. I was so close. I knew it was something like that. But yeah, so this is a judge who's seen this before, right? This is the exact same MO as last time. So the difference here was when they went up to argue that part of the motion, and they saved it for last. The first was the discovery issues. Then they get to the final motion, which is now the Commonwealth's motion to vacate bail and put Aiden Carney back in jail. And so they bring a video up. They bring the laptop up to the bench. And even though it was pretty loud, it's a big room, I could catch bits and pieces, it's Aiden, one of his shows, and he's going off primarily on Tully because of what Tully has done to him personally. Right. And he's basically saying, I don't care if the guy goes down. There's some revenge that's talked about, which becomes very important. And if you've seen the Courthouse Steps interview with Aiden and with Breidel, revenge was key in this case because the judge focused on it. So that was the thrust of the violation. This is a violation of his probation and bail, so he needs to be thrown back in jail. That's the Commonwealth's
It's unbelievable, because he put that on Twitter too. I almost retweeted it as saying this is Aiden's response. I mean, he would wish he wished that somebody who had done him harm, gets the same karma.
Yeah, and Bradel called it karma. That's what he said. That's what this is all about. It's a satire, and I think Aiden said on the courthouse steps how he invokes the name of Jesus and revenge in the same sentence to make it very clear how satirical it is. Because I don't know, you don't have to be all that religious to know that Jesus was not a revenge kind of person, right? So maybe turn the other cheek and all of that. So that was their position. And the judge, he kept asking when first of all, when Cosgrove got up there, it's like, please kill me now. This guy just drags on and on and on.
Special prosecutor Cosgrove.
He's special, all right. Might be special ed. So, and the court allows him, just take your time, go ahead. So he does, and so he takes his time and he prattles on about all of these violations he believed existed. Then he gets to Mr. Bradel's turn, and he's belting it out. How annoyed he is. He's so mad that we're here fighting about this First Amendment crap again. He didn't say crap, but I did, because I have a First Amendment right. And so he goes on about how important that is. And I don't know how many times we're going to have to be dragged here in front of this court. These are just words. Remember the order itself. First word on it, I think, or second or third, is contact. No contact with these folks that have claimed to have been intimidated by Aiden Carney. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. And he can't be within 100 yards of them, and he can't be within, I think, 100 yards of the pizza joint, right?
Right.
Not much on there that would lead you to believe words alone would matter. And unless they are, under the Constitution, fighting words, right, or threats, I'm sorry, it's not actionable.
Like an imminent threat, right?
Well,
Not just like, if you do this, I will do this. Okay, the courts have already held that an if is not, that's not actionable, right?
And the Supreme Court cases are legion. There's no question about it. So this word revenge gives this judge, I don't know if he was clutching pearls, but he was certainly more concerned about that in this appearance than the last time we went through the same process in Stoughton. And he kept pressing Bradel for, well, tell me about revenge. How do I handle that word revenge? What does that do to the mix? And so he just goes on and on, Bradel, about how it's protected speech,
right?
And it's basically karma. He's not even saying go do it. He's saying it wouldn't bother me if it happened,
right?
And what they used as their evidence for the Commonwealth was some letter or email, probably email, that was sent to Tully, and Tully, like a crybaby. Do we have crybaby handy somewhere?
Where's crybaby? Where's crybaby?
Where's the crybaby? Anybody home? Anybody watching?
We're giving crybaby. We started with Lewin. It's now gone to Hank Brennan, and now it's going to go to. Come on, we need the crybaby.
Okay, so they're upset. Tully is upset because he gets this letter from a third party, not from Aiden Carney. And so the Commonwealth's position is that would not have happened without Aiden Carney. He's basically inciting people to act on their own at his direction. Well, I guess if you could prove that in a more straightforward way, that's kind of like hiring a hitman or something. That's not a good thing. But just because somebody watches your program and then acts on basically your anger and your speech, come on, that is not on the person who spoke.
Yeah, right. Well, Massachusetts was the only state that did vote for, who was the candidate with the helmet over his head? Let me see, the Democratic candidate, the helmet was over his head for some reason.
The presidential candidate.
Yes, presidential.
The guy was about this tall to me.
Right, and then he went
Michael Dukakis.
Right,
he goes riding down the street in a tank, right? And that was the end. That was the end of his campaign.
That was the end.
I'm not sure it would have lasted much longer, but that definitely short-circuited it. Speaking
of
short,
I'm only thinking about, because they do things. This is different. I mean, this is truly different, right? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, they do things different in the Commonwealth. They do things
in
very
the Commonwealth,
differently.
right?
So the upshot is the judge says, and in Bradel's experience, he said he has never seen this happen. He took it under advisement.
He's learning from Judge Beth Finoni.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a motion to revoke bail,
Right.
which suggests that, turn him around, put the cuffs on him, and haul him out.
This
As
is
we used to say to the
ridiculous.
clients, take your toothbrush. You might
So
be
some
going.
cop thinks that Aiden Carney somehow, by exercising his First Amendment rights, saying, because what you did to me, karma's going to come around and bite you in the gosh darn ass, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to incite somebody, and all of a sudden he feels threatened, and therefore Aiden Carney's bail should be revoked on the issue of whether or not he was intimidating witnesses in the trial. Oh, I get it. This is bullshit. Okay. Right. This is just bullshit.
Yeah. And again, beyond the order, the court order, which clearly says contact or being in the vicinity of these folks, let me give you an aside real quick, because it tells you that, there are real serious things happening. That to me is frivolous. It's a waste of taxpayer money. It's a waste of personal money. It's putting Aiden Carney in a, kind of a vulnerable spot, because he, as he says, they're the ones with the guns. He's not sure what they will or won't do. And you can be right and injured, jailed, and still be right. Right. So just before his case, as they're going through the docket, there's a guy in there who is up for vehicular manslaughter, DUI, blows a 0.17, 0.18. A woman is hit in a car head on and critically injured when he was first arraigned, and then about 9 days later died. Sitting right in front of me, just by happenstance, is clearly this woman's daughter and a support friend. And as they're, the DA is laying out all the details, because they're there for a bail increase, because now that she's died, they want the bail increased, right? And this woman and this young girl, they're just in shreds, because they're hearing details of what happened to this girl's mom by this accused defendant, and they're there on bail. Guess what his bail was and what they wanted? Just pick some numbers.
His bail
again, manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah. His bail was $50,000, and then they wanted $5 million.
You won't believe it, so I'll tell you. $5,000 cash bail.
Okay.
They wanted the DA wanted to up it to $7,500.
Oh my gosh, I won't believe it. I mean, in New Jersey, in New York,
I think anywhere vehicular manslaughter.
Oh my goodness! I mean, not that shouldn't be the bail, because bail is supposed to ensure your presence, right? And it's always been misused, but we're so used to it being misused that I can't believe it.
And the defense argued, look, that bail is to assure that he's here. He's been at every hearing. He's here today.
Right.
And as best as I could understand it, it got a little jumbled at the end. They kept it at $5,000. They did not make him add another $2,500.
Wow.
So my point is that that's as real as it gets. And those folks sitting in front of me were experiencing that as real as it gets. And now next up, it's the clown show. The witness intimidation claims against a guy who's just jerking their chain, because that's what he does.
Well, not only does he jerk their chain, because he does, but he also has brought this case forward, the Karen Reed case, and all the stuff that's wrong.
And they don't like that either. I mean, if you look at the powers that be, they don't like that either. So we know this whole story is to keep him quiet, and if you believe Kate Peter, then it's so obvious that that's what's happening. If you believe her, to actually pay somebody to stir things up and cast a shadow on somebody like Aiden Carney, because he's outing the powers that be. Oh, I should.
The person who's dimed out Kate Peter, not Kate Peter is
yes,
not,
that's right. She's just the conduit. She's the conduit.
She's the conduit, right?
But let me check my notes here, because I'm pretty sure that I'm not positive of the date, but the court said, well, on that issue, we need to have a hearing. So an evidentiary hearing. So that would suggest bringing in
whether the affidavit's true.
Yes. So that would mean bringing in both Kate Peter and the now outed person who she says she spoke to. So look for that. Look for that in your TV guide.
That should be really interesting. And what they expect Aiden to be there on his own case in jail because they want to revoke his bail. I mean, what's most interesting? The person who really got hurt in this, Aiden Carney's mother. This Atlantic article, which is a mainstream magazine article on him, his mother dies, and then what does he have? He has a dead big turtle. And we talked about it when he was on our show. You can go back and look at our show. We did a whole interview, like an hour and 15 minutes with Aiden, hanging dead. It was, it was like the Godfather and the horse. It was clearly a threat. And he said the police did work the case. They kind of think they know who did it, but they could never really, resolve it. But that's kind of like what you call witness intimidation. That's pretty bad.
That is, it's no horse head in the bed, but it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad, and the person didn't just say, as some people have said. Some people said they don't like Aiden Carney, but he's done a great job in terms of his reporting, bringing this case forward.
Yeah, I mean, I could see his.
It was hung 2 days before she died. I'm sorry, the turtle was hung 2 days before she died. Thank you for correcting me. 2 days before.
I could see, and he did 60 days in jail because this is the fourth or fifth time they've tried to revoke his bail, and they were successful once. And so I get it. Some people don't like his style. He's in your face, and he drops the bombs, and he's dropping the C word, and not everybody's cup of tea, but that's okay. That's what the First Amendment's about: freedom of speech. You don't like it, click, you turn the channel, you go somewhere else. You don't shut them down.
It's very interesting because this whole X debate and freedom of speech, and that's the person who makes our Starlink is a fundamentalist on that everyone has freedom of speech to say whatever they want, and it's pretty dicey in some things. I don't like some of the things that are said, but I'm going to defend your right to say it because it's the First Amendment.
Of course. I want the right someday to say something stupid. Some say that I've already done that many times, but I want the right to do that.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. It's also a way to keep him out of he had the right to cover the trial today. What's interesting about this hearing is he had the right to cover the trial, and one of the biggest witnesses to report on is Jen McCabe. And then this afternoon, when you had the cross-examination, when you're dealing with the cross-examination, he couldn't report on it. So he's going to have to go back and watch the tape, and then he's going to have to do a blog or do a show on it. And
I'm guessing he will. I think he's been doing nightly stuff, like
I think he's on now.
Or so at night. Is he on now too?
I think
he's against us. Damn it!
Yeah,
he used to do much later, and I'd even catch it at 9 or so at night. He will not be quiet about it. That is for sure.
No, and boy, if he saw it today, he definitely wouldn't be. And I know he was tweeting about some of it earlier and yesterday and all. But that's it. So he took it under advisement to revoke his bail. Why? What does he want to go do? Read it again? Read whatever he said? Watch.
He said he's going to look at everything again because he only saw that video the first time at the bench when it was presented.
Okay.
And then they left behind as a marked exhibit the disc. They had discs. I thought they just have it on a thumb drive, but it was actually some sort of burnt disc, DVD.
God, I didn't even know they had this.
Got it at Blockbuster, apparently.
Yeah. But I tell you, to throw this on him at the last moment again, when it's his most, again. I mean, this goes to show you what Karen Reed is fighting. We came into this case, and I'm going to say it again because as we covered it this afternoon, we came into this case. We didn't even know about it. We didn't, nothing. We were anchors of law and crime. We laughed at the gosh darn leaf blower being an evidence tool collection of some sort, and the solo cups. And then as we started covering it on our own channel, there are things that just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense, we felt the prosecution didn't prove the case beyond its burden. And then when they bring in Hank Brennan to retry this case, after there's a whole controversy about Judge Beverly Cannone not even asking the jury whether they had reached a verdict on some counts, and then you had all the possible jury tampering. Something's not right here in Denmark, or something's rotten in
or
Denmark.
Dedham, whichever.
Dedham, right? Yeah, maybe that's what Shakespeare.
I think meant I'm calling Dedham, Canton, and Stoughton the axis of evil. They're the new axis of evil.
Yeah, and everyone knows about Stoughton.
Pollinating.
Yeah, everyone knows about Stoughton. Everyone knows about Sandra Birchmore, and then some of the cops will cross over, and even Whitley, the EMT, apparently was on the scene in the Sandra Birchmore case. The one who says all of a sudden, she said I hit him. None of this stuff was ever in reports. You do reports because when you go to court, you want to have that what the defendant said, memorialized, especially if you don't have a tape. But apparently in Massachusetts, if you make confessions, you don't ever put them down anywhere.
That's right. And if you have meetings with cops, the DA, no notes, not recorded, just a little conversation, no big deal. So should we talk a little bit about Jen McCabe? And now we have to wait for she'll get to take her breath tomorrow and then come back.
I think she thought she was going to be over today.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did Cross finish or not?
No, going backwards, the judge, excused everybody and said tomorrow was a day off for whatever reason. And then the judge brought them back in and said, so Mr. Jackson, how long do you think he had? And he looked and he said, I think about 2 hours, Your Honor. he asked Mr. Hank Brennan how long. He said, probably no more than 20 minutes. So the judge said, well, then we should be finished either by morning break or more likely by lunch, which I think the more likely by lunch is the time they finish.
That's
right?
That's only a 3-hour chunk minus the mid morning break, which is roughly a half hour. So you're talking 2.5 hours total.
Right. So and then she asked Hank Brennan, "Do you have any other witnesses?" He says, "Yes, I have 4 or 5 already lined up. I will share them with the court and with the defense." Blah 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 blah.
Okay,
but of course, they don't share with the public. Just they're not going to share with us.
Of course,
because it's Friday, and that Hank Brennan is going to pick a witness that he thinks is going to be really good because the whole trial. Finish. As you know, the trial is like a Broadway play, so you end the first act on something really strong, so the jury goes in, and at the end has the whole weekend. Oh wow, did you hear that? Did you hear what the prosecution laid upon us? So in that case, we know it ain't going to be the medical examiner. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yes. I'd like to call to the stand Mr. Brian Higgins. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be fun.
Just to get the direct. No time for the cross. Just the direct. Okay, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay,
so I'm gonna have to when I'm driving home tonight. I'm gonna listen again to what I missed.
I put a bunch of points into our WhatsApp because I knew it was so you couldn't keep up. Okay, with regard to what's happening, I won't even go with Hank Brennan what he finished. Okay, let's just pass that because the cross began of the day. Okay, and the cross was Alan Jackson, who, by the way, until the very end when he was a little bit more heated, but he was more heated because Judge Cannoni was not letting. Let me just say this: Judge Cannoni, after what she heard and what we're going to talk about, should have been extremely concerned, extremely worried about the witness on the stand. By the way, and we do have 2 questions we should ask, but about Turtle Boy before we do anything else. But should be concerned.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just going to read this if you're going to get rid of it because you have a habit of getting rid of when I put something up, it disappears. I
didn't touch that. So I'm just talking about the 2 questions.
So great to see Michael today on the street and in court, and we did meet, said hi. Always wonderful chat. Quincy, that's right, Quincy, which is a big city, really, in Mass, other than Boston. Quincy is large. People are dropping in from helicopters to see this thing. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you know what? Actually, why don't we finish answer the questions we have of Turtle Boy sui generis, who's always very sui generis.
Yes.
Does anyone see the timeline with Jen where she won't testify unless Turtle Boy is put in jail? And I think these are a kind of 2 related things.
Well, we know that was included in the affidavit, right? From affiant or affiant. What do you like, affiant or affiant?
I say affiant, but
I say affiant too.
Yeah, I say affiant.
Another question: in California, we don't have affidavits or affiants. We have declarations.
We have certifications in New Jersey, right? So
we have declarants in California.
Yeah.
So you have certificates.
Certifications because they don't have to be a certification.
The person
certifier, they're the certifier, right? Because you don't have to have it notarized. The certification doesn't have to be notarized. Only in federal court when you have it. Right. Only, exactly. In federal court, you have to have an affidavit, but in New Jersey, so we got rid of that because quite frankly, it's meaningless, right? You're going to certify the penalty of perjury, just like if you raise your hand to the Bible or not, right? When you go to a courtroom, there's nobody there to say, "Oh, and under oath they gave it."
And obviously, as we've seen,
$29.99 to do it.
Quite often, nothing happens anyway.
Right.
So, I digress. So the affiant in this case, or the related Turtle Boy case, is Kate Peter, who has quoted this. I'm not going to out her just because I'm going to respect until it's official the name. I think people know it and find it if they want it. Right. But that's where that one of those phrases came from, and that is that there was the payoff, and that Jen McCabe was involved, and that she went to Michael Morrissey and said to him, "Hey, you either get Turtle Boy and put him in jail, or we don't testify. We don't testify the way you want us to." So, not really sure who the we is. Don't know.
Isn't it interesting? They moved to revoke his bail today at the last moment. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah, in the
Isn't
midst
that
of her
interesting?
testimony, I'm guessing Carrie Roberts would be one of the other we's. I would think Brian Higgins is one of the we's, Brian Albert, one of the we's. That's what I'm thinking. But
Yeah.
I'd like to get her on the stand to flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah. That's and maybe that's what we're going to see. Things are going to go there on Friday. I don't know. Okay. So Mary Romaine had a question. I found Hank was added to Brady list last week, April 22nd. Found many messages say police and Morrissey also. Will anything be done? Like what? No, nothing is going to be done. The judge is never going to let Hank Brennan being added to anything, is never going to allow Morrissey. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to tell you right now. Unless there's some really serious shit. And we had serious shit. This is a legal term today, Michel Bryant. We had a lot of serious shit today, okay? When Alan Jackson began his cross-examination, he really started softer. He wanted to know really how many times Jen McCabe had talked to Carrie Roberts. That took a very long time in terms of discussing and talking about this case and all, and talked about the testimony. And it turns out
they weren't talking about the testimony, remember?
Right.
They never talked about the testimony. They only talked about the case. And what they both learned. And even when he was pressing her about collaborating and talking about, well, you were kind of incorporating her take on things and she was incorporating your take on things. Well, Carrie Roberts went into great detail about how they had like a sit down with a notepad and they were, putting down their collective thoughts. But Jen McCabe would not go there. No, that did not happen.
All right. And when was the last time you talked to her? Well, last night, but we didn't talk about the case. We just talked about our kids and all, we bonded over this traumatic event. Oh, come on. So, she wouldn't give on that. And I thought that set her in the tone of, okay, this lady's not believable. All right. I mean, come on. Of course, you're going to talk about your witness testimony from last year.
Sure.
And you didn't talk about it with him. You didn't talk about, and then they got into something that was interesting, and we discussed it a little bit at lunch. Alan Jackson, he then went into how many times have you talked to Mr. Brennan and his team, and it's 4 or 5, and what was the more recent? And she says, well, there was a Zoom call. Apparently, the judge wanted, and then there was a whoa, and everyone knew to stop. So something caused there to be a Zoom call last night. That the judge ordered to be made by Hank Brennan to Jennifer McCabe, and Alan Jackson knew that was off limits, so he knows what it's about. We don't know what it's about. Any guesses?
I wish I could break that news for you, but I've ferreted around my usual stuff and snorted and sniffed and kicked over some rocks, and no, I have no idea. I mean, we can speculate all day. But I have no solid information as to suggest why they felt they had to have that Zoom meeting, in between trial days.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was some kind of craziness in the courtroom, and it relates to this question from Mary Lewis. Michael, do you know what the meeting with the families was about? And that happened in the middle of Jen McCabe's cross-examination. That everyone was told to clear the courtroom, and reporters and
court called for a sidebar at first. It was her call, sua sponte. Right in the middle of cross-examination. And at the time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she seems to do this.
Do it again.
Only when the defense is cross-examining. I never see her jump in the middle of the Commonwealth. I'm sure it's because the Commonwealth is just better. That's why. I'm sure it's the only reason. So she jumps in, has that sidebar, and then it starts turning into far more than that. From what I learned and from what I saw with the families, and remember, it was the families and the attorneys, right? That was it.
Right.
And apparently it had to
immediate families, she said.
Immediate, yeah, not media. Right. Immediate, yes,
right.
Immediate family. And we know from past, even a couple of motions in limine were related to family member reactions in the courtroom during various parts of the trial, certain testimony. So there were motions made, and they're weird motions. I've never seen a motion pre-trial. Could you tell the family members not to like wrinkle up their noses when they don't like something? I mean, it was pretty unusual. Obviously no yelling, no screaming, no, marching up and down, but just to have a slightly visible reaction, that's unusual to try and stifle that. Also unlikely to be successful. So I think it related to, among others, Paul O'Keefe, the brother of Officer John O'Keefe, who's been very, how do I say this? He's been very loud facially
And he was sitting right there, right where the camera is, right next
right
behind Yannetti, right.
He is, and again, because of the weird theater in the round nature of this courtroom, the jury is looking straight across counsel table, defense and prosecution, right into that front railing of 4 or 5 people. And then up behind them on that elevated level, you'll see Aiden Carney will be up there, and some other media types will be up there. But it is like you can't avoid his gaze. If you're just kind of looking into the well of the court and to the key players, his mug is right there in front of your face. So they come back after that meeting, whatever it was officially about. I only have my sources. I wasn't there. He's moved, and maybe less direct line of sight. Maybe, and somebody else pointed this out, when Karen Reed goes up to the bench for some of these sidebars, again, because they denied her the use of headphones and put a microphone, they said, no, we didn't do that in Massachusetts. So she's welcome to come up here, and she does. She walks right past, like within a foot of Paul O'Keefe at that time, because where he has been sitting. Now he's a little bit out of the way, so that shouldn't be quite as weird or uncomfortable, but he's still right there. Yeah, he's right.
But he was the one who went with Hank Brennan, accompanying Hank Brennan. He was the only one who went to Hank Brennan's office for a few minutes. So it obviously had to involve that.
That's what we think. And then she wanted to talk to all the family members, I think in part to take focus maybe off of the most important of the family members, just to remind everybody, don't do that. We understand it's difficult. You might want to react. Just try and, just watch yourself.
It was interesting because there was a rumor that a juror had complained about it. Now, we've not been able to substantiate that rumor. So
we know in the first trial, we heard that, right? We heard that in the first trial, that one of the jurors made that specific comment in one of their post-trial interviews.
Yeah, well, they were intimidated by one of the officers or something, right? Or the family. I guess one of the family members in court. So one of the jurors made it. So we'll see. Anyhow, but whatever it is, it wasn't going to happen again.
It was weird.
It was weird. So then going back to McCabe, so after we had that Zoom call issue that we know there's something out there brewing, right? We know there's something out there, right? That was a big mystery, right? With regard to that. Then he started getting into, and this was around 10:44 up to then 11:35. By the way, you had an interview with some law enforcement agency, right? And actually, they walked up to you. They walked up to your car outside, right? And you said, you told them that you were not Jennifer McCabe. You said you were somebody else.
Nicole
McCabe, right? And she said yes. And then she went into the house, and then they called you in your house, right? Yes. And obviously then they clearly identified themselves, and she was able to, and she says, I let them into my house to talk, but I told them I needed 10 minutes to get ready because I'd taken my kids and blah, blah. I hadn't brushed my teeth. I mean, who in the heck gets up in the morning and gets dressed, takes their kids to school, and doesn't brush, and has coffee and all that stuff, and doesn't brush their teeth? But that's
initially, she thought they were salesmen or something. That's why she gave them the fake name. That's what she said.
Yeah, that's
if you're gonna give a fake name, don't throw one of your relatives under the bus.
Yeah, like here's my ID from the FBI, right? Mm-hmm. I can understand. Okay, so maybe she didn't believe him. Give that's okay. You want to be in your house, so she calls her husband, and she calls Carrie Roberts. Okay, clearly she's saying, by the way, the FBI is at my door. They want to interview me, right? I mean, this whole idea that we have to shield this jury to know that this is the FBI instead of some law enforcement agency, not the Massachusetts State Police, not the Canton State Police. Well, who the hell is involved in this? I said before, I don't think ICE was coming to her door, and I doubt it was a Secret Service coming to her door, although you never know. Now, maybe if she's making threatening phone calls or something. And they tell her the same thing that Carrie Roberts was told. So remember, Carrie Roberts was told afterwards, we learned that she was called by a law enforcement agency and told, well, if you lie to this law enforcement agency, you will go to jail. And she owned up. That was Carrie Roberts, on the fact that she had misrepresented to the grand jury the fact that she actually heard Karen Reed ask Jennifer McCabe to Google hypothermia or how long to die in the cold. So it's clearly the same scenario. It's probably the same agents, right? Who told her, you were told that if you lied to these law enforcement agencies, he actually said agent at one point, and the judge said agency, Mr. Correcting him, but he said agent, a clear special agent. You will go to jail. And they asked you, who did you call? And you only told them those two names. And in fact, and then he went down and he wound and he went down, and he finally got her to admit that indeed she had lied to them, that she had spoken not only to her husband, and I understand you calling your husband, right, and all, but Carrie Roberts, Peggy O'Keefe, that's John O'Keefe's mother, the district attorney's office, the contact,
victim advocate,
yeah, and the last one, he says, but you left out one, right? And you left out Brian Albert. Could you talk to him too? And yes, she had.
Oh, my brother-in-law.
I forgot. I forgot who it was. I forgot. I mean, right? You can't make this up. Now, when you're thinking about that, and my point here is, this was obviously after she softened up, and the jury now knows that she's lied to somebody important, and she and Carrie Roberts have both lied to somebody important. They may not understand the import of it all yet, right? To me, if you're Judge Cannoni and you have witnesses on the stand that have admitted, and because you're Judge Cannoni, this was a federal investigation, and that this witness has lied to the FBI, the fucking FBI, the fucking FBI, that FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the big guys in Washington, J. Edgar Hoover, all those people, they've lied to them. Wouldn't you start thinking to yourself, well, I'm going to let Alan Jackson do a full cross-examination, just like she said about Hank Brennan and Aka, right? Well, she tried to stifle, and before you get into the specifics, she tried to stifle Alan Jackson at every get-go when he had her absolutely lying, changing her testimony to the point where she said that was last year's testimony dealing with the seeing Karen Reed at 12:45 outside the Albert House. Not today's testimony. That was last year's testimony, not today's testimony.
We've talked about it all the way to the run-up of this testimony because we knew it was a huge problem, right? I didn't really think...
For the prosecution.
Yes, and I didn't really think that this would be the answer. That was my testimony last year, not this year. Oh, well, sorry. Okay, all's forgiven. No problem.
That's it. So the person who lied to the FBI about who she called and never, by the way, talked to them. Apparently, her husband and the judge wouldn't let him get into this. Apparently, I guess it was her husband, or maybe it was Brian Albert, who said it kind of came out, but it came out over with objections and sustains. Said, you just lied to the FBI. This has to be corrected. Okay. And the judge wouldn't allow that to happen. To me, that's important, that she's not the one that corrected. Somebody's told her this, that she has to correct it.
So it just sometimes it's so blatant, the bias, it's hard to get past. And that's one very easy example.
Yeah, that's an example. And then, she kept saying, well, I hit him. And then Alan Jackson was going through her transcript, of her grand jury. And well, I've testified in so many grand jury. I don't know. I've testified in so many things, right?
I get them all confused.
Yeah. I get them all confused.
As we say, the truth never changes. But if you're interviewed so many times, so many different agencies, and it does change, it makes you kind of wonder if any of them are truthful.
Well, she couldn't remember anything. Nothing refreshed her recollection. So when Alan Jackson said, you didn't say that to the grand jury, what you said to the grand jury was, my client said, when she called later in the morning, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Like looking for an answer for something with regard to it. Well, I assume because I guess Peggy O'Keefe told it looked like it hit by a car, right?
No, that's not the proper delivery. It looks like he's hit by a car. Okay, it looks like he's hit by a car.
Yeah.
And I never heard. Was there a ruling on that clip yet? Because it has not been played in open court, correct? Not in front of the jury.
Well, that clip has
That clip has the one looks like he'd been hit by a car, because that one was being fought about and tabled.
Yeah, to make her, and they wanted that to make her look bad. Yeah, to
Okay,
make
so
fun
that one
of it.
got
Yeah,
in. I was somewhere else.
So on the basis that's I don't know, because it buttressed her testimony that hadn't been impeached, because it was no cross examine. It was another stupid ruling. But yeah, I get annoyed at stupid rulings. But then she says, well, I'd have to look at my whole 227-page transcript. I had to look at all. So Alan Jackson said, well, here. And the judge says, oh, no, we're not going to do that. So then Alan Jackson had to go back and had to take every single page where she didn't say it and do a setup, because Hank Brennan kept objecting. You know, the person is supposed to seek justice and the truth, kept objecting. He didn't want the jury to hear what she had told the grand jury. This is like Alice in Wonderland reverse of what should be going on here.
Glass, people.
Yeah. And so, you know, Alan Jackson had to go back to it, said, and then finally she, you know, Jennifer McCabe, who had her more sweet face on today, then at the very end said, you never told the grand jury, in response to the EMT, the woman who's the EMT. She said, well, there were a lot of EMTs in yellow. Well, we just went through the thing where that's the woman, the EMT in yellow. She said, I said that, but I also said, I've been hit, you know, I hit him. I also said that. Well, it's not in the grand jury transcript.
Yeah. And because I'm telling you right now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I've been here this trip about 36 hours. My memory is amazingly better than it was when I drove into town. It is just like, bam, stuff's coming back from 5th grade, and not all of it's good, but, you know, a lot of memories coming back. So that is the impact that this area has on your memory.
Right.
Simple.
And you know, it's not in, she was interviewed by Trooper Proctor, who it's not in his report. She was interviewed by another trooper, a female trooper. It's not in her report. It's in no report, and it's in no grand jury testimony. It is nowhere. Just like all the other I hit him weren't in any EMT reports, right? Yeah. It's nowhere. But all of a sudden, yes, her memory is better now than it was, because after all, that's last year's testimony.
Last year's, man, that's ancient. We're new now, baby. Let's see. This is from Something Time Out. My time out? I can't read that. I'm sorry. Is it normal for a witness on cross to be allowed to ramble on and not answer questions? Judge Beverly Cannone said, let her finish.
All the time.
Criminal. Well, yeah, there were certainly many opportunities for Alan Jackson to say, look, just answer the question.
And he tried. He tried.
And the judge would step in. So the question here, is it normal for a witness on cross? It can be. And sometimes it's purposeful. Sometimes you want the person just to ramble on and sound like a moron. That was not the case today. The case today was he wanted to cut her off. The judge wouldn't let him.
Right, because she wasn't answering the question. Then she was going to give an explanation or give a different answer to the question than he was asking. And she wouldn't let him. And then that's exactly what happened. And I think this all goes back to the fact that she's developed a dislike for Alan Jackson because of ARCA. She can't get him on ARCA because now she knows the feds are watching. But, you know, you had 2 witnesses in her courtroom who admit lying. Right? One to the FBI, one to the grand jury. You would think that should count about something, Judge Cannone. You really would. Okay. Yeah. Now I have a big question for you. Okay.
All right.
This is from a very important person.
Yes, it is. The boss. This is from the boss.
This is from the boss. Tomorrow being a day off gives everyone time to prepare. What would you both do if you were Alan Jackson, and what if you were Jen? Okay. Go ahead. You do Alan Jackson.
You do Alan Jackson. I would like to think that he'll put his feet up. He'll go work out. And he'll put his feet up and relax. I just don't see that happening, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't be able to relax either. I would take that time to feel like I could actually prepare instead of running around like my hair's on fire all the time because I'm, you know, stepping and fetching for whatever the court has asked me or demanded that I do, or the Commonwealth has demanded that I do, and the court has sanctioned it. So I hope he works out and takes it easy for at least half the day. I'm just not sure that's happening.
No, I think he's gonna go through every single thing by word. He's gonna go compare her words to today to her words in the grand jury, and now we're gonna have the transcript, because he didn't have the transcript from yesterday, but I'm guarantee you he's gonna get those transcripts from yesterday and today. He's gonna play that court reporter,
Gonna play the rush fee.
overtime.
That's gonna be a rush fee.
That's
Believe
gonna
me,
be a rush fee.
that'll be like $10 a page. So good for the court reporter. I'm all for that.
Yeah, because they have to have that with her to pen her in. And then if I were Jen, I'd keep to my look. It was such a traumatic experience. And then I know what I was saying. I've had counseling, and because I've had counseling, I've been able to deal with the trauma, and all the stuff that I couldn't say before is just coming out, and you just have no idea.
So it's
that's
memories. Okay.
It's unlocked my memories. Yeah, that's be prepared. Be prepared for that, because the word she was given was she was supposed to answer the question. That's what the DA's office had told her, right? Answer the question. They didn't try to make her over, according to them, but answer the question. But she was having a hard time answering the question. She was answering the question, but the question she wanted to answer, not the question that was being asked.
Yeah, well, she's a very manipulative person, you can tell. But then again, she is the head of the Jen McCabe School of Witness Preparation, so she's got to set the example. If you believe her and Kerry Roberts, the general sense you get is that Karen Reed said, I hit him, every other sentence.
Right.
Like, I got to go to work tomorrow. I hit him. Then I got to remember to go to the grocery store. I hit him. It sounds like any moment she had, she threw that into the mix.
Right.
And I have no doubt she said it and wondered and wasn't sure and is thinking back as to what happened that night. And as we've said many times, that's the strongest part of the prosecution case. She was drunk, didn't know what happened, hit him. That's a manslaughter. But to do it as often as these witnesses are now saying she did, and in the way that they're saying she did,
and all of them are now saying she did, right? Yeah, with nothing in writing.
And they're hearing others say it.
Right.
So not only are they hearing it, but others are saying it, and they heard that, so they get to repeat it again and again and again.
And over again. And you feel bad because that wasn't said. I mean, I know that wasn't said. If it's not in a report like that and it's not taped, all of a sudden, all of these people are saying the exact same thing over and over. And it doesn't change, right? It's always, I hit him.
And I know Karen Reed has acknowledged what she said, right?
Right.
With that same honest concern. Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? I think anybody would do that and have second guesses and not know for sure. I get that.
Okay, so Carlene Barth says, a question for Linda. How are you going to manage your feelings with Judge Bev Clinell the next time you run into her in Boston? Well, I'm hoping I'm not trying a case up there like Hernandez. But, if it comes down to me or her about getting invited back to the next Harvard Hall, I'm going with my ethics, which is, I honestly, as you know, I said she should be respected. She's a very respectful judge. She's respected up there. But I think that where my tone changed is when she did the whole thing with Alan Jackson and ARCA in the open courtroom about the grave concerns, after it turns out that they learned that because of the discovery the defense had given, and that if she had concerns, then that should have been done in camera. It should have all been sealed so that the whole tone or the jury pool wasn't poisoned against Karen Reed, which is clearly, in my opinion, I think you've got stealth jurors on there. There's no way you can't have a stealth juror on there who may have been poisoned by that. And when she did it that way, I thought that was absolutely wrong. And I think this is wrong, how she's cutting off Alan Jackson. He's doing no more than doing a regular cross-examination. And he really, quite frankly, wasn't really being disrespectful to her in any way.
Just basic impeachment stuff that you should be allowed to get into. Right,
exactly. That's how I felt. So, once I make up my mind, there's no pushing me off my my ethics, quite frankly. Just like, I know you have tried. But I'm that's why people have a great respect for me. I'm going to tell you like I see it, and you like it or you don't like it, but I'm not changing my opinion to please you.
I will try and convince you at every opportunity to persuade you differently. Mary Romine says, rumor has it, I heard the Zoom was about no talking about witness intimidation. That's as good a guess as any, I suppose. I guess. I don't know if it would have been such an insular conversation, and why at the last second, and why not before other people's testimony. I guess they weren't directly intimidated like Jen McCabe. So it's possible. It's I'm glad you clarified that as a rumor, because that's sounds good. It's a rumor.
Do you know, Michael, there's a Supreme Court case, and thank you all for loving me. There's a Supreme Court case, for instance, if I work for a public agency and I take home one of those $1.99 cheap, pens that the name I won't mention, and I take it home because, everyone carries pens and all, and the FBI comes to your house and says, did you take this pen from work, or did you take a pen from work? If you said no, you get indicted. You get indicted for that, and you can go to jail for a long period of time. There's a case on it, okay? Or
is that a big pen that you're stealing?
Well, I'm not stealing a big pen. This is actually a Uniball. These are pretty expensive.
Oh, Uniball. Well,
yeah, a Uniball pen. But I guess the big pens were the ones that the government had for a long period of time, and you saw them. And so what? You see hotel rooms, people take them, that type of stuff. I mean,
Sure.
Who the heck cares? Especially when like the military is paying for $5,000 for or what was it, $100,000 for like a claw hammer or something.
Right. Right.
Yeah, give me a break. But something as serious as this, lying to the FBI is not a big deal, according to Judge Beck.
Yes, according to Judge Beck. 62 red flag list. It's all colluding all the time. I want Hulk to storm in and shake Brennan upside down. That would not be very nice of you to do, and I would ask the court to prevent that.
Yeah, you do that. You do a great imitation. I tried to do your imitation, but I can't do imitation. So you know what I'm thinking about that. That's probably a good thing that maybe that was what was the Zoom was about, not to discuss the Aiden Carney, the intimidation, not to mention that today. That considering the Aiden Carney's hearing was going on the motion for discovery, that may be a very good catch, and maybe that's exactly what it was about.
Well, if we learn from sources and we can confirm that, we definitely will do that.
Well, let me tell you, we had Mara on today, and she was the one who first said, by the way, the courtroom's being cleared, reporting to us, and then we went and checked it with one of the Boston channels, and was actually the truth, and we ended up scooping a lot of the tubers because we were able to report on what was happening in the courtroom because of one of our viewers. So I love our viewers. Who, by the way, even if you're the United States, even if you're the government, the Commonwealth, and you're in here because you probably are, since you know who Michel Bryant is, you know he's a lawyer, and you know the whole thing about whether or not he would use a printer to print his press passes, and that conversation we've had, and you actually mentioned that to
did,
him.
and I don't think he liked that.
Yeah, but welcome, join us.
He said, "So let's work on that." As I followed him like the puppy dog he demanded. Over across the street. He's a lot of bark, I'm sure he's a fine guy, but they feel so defensive that they're kind of, lashing out.
Okay, so we have another start question. Is the defense allowed to have a copy of that Zoom meeting or no? No, apparently not. They're not even allowed to mention it. They may have been told what it was about and agreed to it, but they're not allowed to have a copy of it. It's not exculpatory information.
And this was, you'll have to confirm this since I missed it. Was it truly 227 pages long?
Yes.
It really was.
227. And she got on the stand. She started cross-examination about 227. Also,
yeah, that I heard. Obviously not AM, but close enough.
Yeah.
No, I did not know about that.
You can't make it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that I did.
Unless AJ was just lying and he used the word 227 because he knew we were. That's a possibility.
That is very possible. We'll have to find out what the actual.
And I don't mean lying, but he could have just said, he could have
nice
said that.
Little drop. Yeah, I would appreciate that creativity.
Great, yeah. So that's what happened. That's what happened today, and that's the high points. And hopefully you'll get home without your car breaking down this time, or without this stalling.
It'll be great. A couple more observations from across the pond. Every time AJ has a lying witness on the ropes, Bev steps in and saves them. The whole world is watching this kangaroo court. Belfast Ireland.
She does. She steps in every single time.
It really does. It's very
every
obvious.
Every single time that she's in the rope-a-dope. Okay, every single time the rope-a-dope is occurring, and those of you who know what the rope-a-dope is, she steps in and she separates them.
Yep. And it's tough to hide when you see it so often and so obvious.
Yep.
In
But
fact,
the question is,
here's your friend Mara. 82% of Law and Crime poll think Bev is biased.
yeah,
So,
really.
That's
Mara, not Mar. Mar is
that's
the one.
Mara, not Mara.
Yeah, we have a Mara, and thank you, Mara. And has there been any polls that you've seen about whether or not they think they like Jen McCabe? Because obviously all of us can say that, but it's the jury, and the case is being presented in such a way. It's a little discombobulated the way it's being presented, It
is non-linear, and I can be a fan of non-linear, but you gotta hook things up sooner rather than later, Kimberlina, I gotta get to Massachusetts so I can get my memory back. Yes, it's great. You won't even notice it happening. It's amazing.
I know, the cure for dementia. Go to Massachusetts and go down the stand, and you're fine. Right.
Okay, so that's going to do it, I guess, right? We're done. We got any loose ends we haven't covered?
I think that's about it, except that we are going to tomorrow night. We're going to have a premiere show, and we're going to go through two things. We'll have a short wrap up on Aiden Carney, because you had an interview with Aiden, right?
It was more presser, but there are only a couple of us there asking questions.
Presser,
and that's posted, so that's up and out there. So take a look at that. Catch up on his case.
Okay.
And maybe there'll be something new by tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah, and sure. I mean, we could find that he's been arrested. And then we're also going to go through Jen McCabe's. There was about 6 different high points that we're going to have. We're going to watch her, because when you watch her, you're going to get that visceral reaction that we had, I think, and maybe the visceral reaction the jury had. So if you have anything for us, like, obviously leave it in the chat. Email us at justiceservedtv@gmail.com. And, we have great mods, as you know, here, and Missy and Oasis and Diz and all. And we will see you for a premiere all about your favorite person, Jen McCabe, tomorrow night at 6 p.m.
All righty. In the meantime,
hit the like button
here don't forget that in Dedham. Try to do the right thing, and we'll see you, I guess, tomorrow, right?
Yep. Hit that like button. See ya.
Riding flames, they charge with